Hi, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Judith Patterson, and today I'm going to be using an oldie but a goodie. This Stampin' Up set, Free as a Bird, is a fun little sweet stamp set. I'm also going to be using the hand-pinned designer series paper. So to make this card, I'm going to be using this large image with all these sweet birds on it, and I'm going to use this shimmery white cardstock and water painters and then some ink pads to color the birds and the tree limb. So I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera around. There we go. And grab my bird stamp and Stays On ink. Since I'm using water painters, I want to use the Stays On ink so that the black ink doesn't bleed into the watercolors. So I'm going to go ahead and ink this up real well. Oh, I also need my paper. So this is the shimmery white. You can't see it on camera, I don't think. But it does have, yeah, you can't see that, but it does have a subtle shimmer to it, which is really nice. This piece of paper is cut 2 1/4 by 4 1/4 inches. I really like this card because you can switch up the sentiment on it very easily. You can switch up the designer series paper that you use, and in fact I think pretty much any of the designer series paper, the hand pinned DSP will be great for this card. So you can change up the colors. I chose cinnamon cider, just a touch of pale papaya, pool party for the birds, blushing bride, and garden green as my colors. I'm just trying to make sure that the birds are really inked up well on this cardstock. This ink can be kind of sticky. There we go. That's a good image. So when you use Stays On, you want to make sure that you clean your stamp with Stays On cleaner. So I've had mine for a very long time. This stuff lasts forever, but it's really important to get that ink off of those rubber stamps. Okay, so start by squeezing your stamp pad in the center, and then that'll get you a pool of ink. So then I'm using the thinner water painter, and you know what, I'm going to actually start with the lighter colors and then move to the darker colors. So I'm going to start with pale papaya. I'm going to give it a little squeeze. I like to use the heels of my hands to squeeze it on these new pads just because they're a little bit tougher. So I'm using the pale papaya only for the beaks on the birds. And I chose this color because it's in the designer series paper that we're using. You can see it just a little bit in the corner here. There we go. So that's the sheet that I decided to use for this card. So I have just a paper towel I've been using to clean my paintbrushes. I'm going to squeeze a little bit of water and just brush it off. You can do this on your scrap paper, or a paper towel or a rag, just whatever you have handy. It doesn't take much to change ink colors. Clean off that tip unless you have a really dark color on the end of it. And you can also just run these under the faucet to help clean up the color if you do have something very dark that you're having a hard time getting off. I love watercolors because I feel like they're very forgiving and they're quick. My favorite paper to watercolor on is this shimmery paper. It just holds up a little bit better than the white cardstock when you get it very wet. And of course the watercolor paint paper, not paint, the watercolor paper, the Fluid 100 is also obviously perfect for watercoloring. I just think I like this. I like the smoother texture of this cardstock and the fact that it shimmers. I go through quite a lot of it. In fact, I just opened a new package of it today because I'd used all my old. Okay, so now I'm getting Blushing Bride, which is also in this designer series paper. I'm going to just use it on the flowers. So I chose to use Blushing Bride as my card base, and I have a scrap of it for the sentiment also, and then I'm using Basic Black as my matte for the designer series paper and also behind this piece. Cinnamon Cider is the color I chose to do the branch. Again, all of these colors are in the designer series paper, so it made it very easy to pick my color scheme. You might want to change your color scheme up depending on which cardstock you just, or not cardstock, but which designer series paper you decide to go with. Oops, that one doesn't have very much ink in it. Probably plenty. This is Garden Green. You know, I keep thinking this is a wing, but it's not. It's part of a leaf. So I'm going to go ahead and go over that with the Garden Green. Just clean that one final time until the tip is clear. And then while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment. I made one earlier with the thank you. So this one, I think I'm going to use the hello stamp. I'm just going to get that tiny little hello, a small little block. I'm just going to use a scrap of Blushing Bride cardstock. If you don't have an embossing buddy, you can use a used dryer sheet to get the static out of the cardstock before you use the Versamark on it. Then I'm going to sprinkle it with the black embossing powder. I'm going to do it twice. And now I'm going to set it with my heat tool. There we go. You can see how it's kind of shiny and darker and sharper now. I'm going to use my little mini stamp cut and emboss machine. And this die, this little tag die from Ornate Frame Dies. And I do want the hello to be closer to the bottom edge of this so that I can tie a bow at the top. I just realized this is sticking over the edge. That will not do. So you can see it not only cuts this outline of the shape, but it also cuts out this little hole for us, which is perfect. So I'm getting my black baker's twine, and this is from the Baker's Twine Essentials pack. It has crumb cake, white, black, and gray granite in it. And you can see I put a sticky note in it with all the colors because I kept forgetting. So there's all of those. Handy little thing to have. I like having different colors of baker's twine because it's just perfect to put on cards like this. And there's so many other ways that you can use it as well. So I'm just threading this through. I'm going to see if I can just tie a bow without tying a knot. Let's see how this works out. I don't like wasting too much of my twine or my ribbon. So a lot of times when I'm tying bows, I tie them before cutting the ribbon or the twine off of the spool. That way I don't have to waste too much. Yeah, I think that looks good. Now I don't leave my ends as long as some people do, but it's just how I do it. Okay, so now I'm going to get my liquid glue out. I'm going to go ahead and put this back under my card, and I'm going to just attach all of these layers. So I'm going to start with the basic black. The Designer Series paper. See, I think the back of this would look good with this card as well. Just change the, I would change the flower colors, and I would change the card base color. And everything else could be left the same if you did it on the back instead of the front here. So you could use dimensionals to put this part on or not. I decided this time to not use dimensionals on this part, and instead I'm going to apply the tag with dimensionals. So I made all of my basic black mats 1/8 of an inch bigger all the way around, well, I guess it's really a 1/16 of an inch on each side. So, but I cut it 1/8 of an inch bigger before matting it down. I'm just going to grab a couple of Stampin' Dimensionals to put on the back of this. Then you can choose your embellishment to put on it. I am using the opal rounds. I'm gonna hold this up and see if you can see. See how they're opalescent? I think that is so cool. These are really pretty in person. I'm just gonna put 2 on this time. Whoa, I'll flip that around. There we go. I'm gonna do one of the larger ones and then one of the smaller ones. And I think I will put another large one right there. That works. So then for the inside, let me see if I have, yep, that's the right size. So this is 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm just gonna stamp the bird. And I'm gonna go ahead and use the stays on again, partly because it's handy, and partly because I think I'm gonna go ahead and watercolor just a little bit. I'm just inking that up like that. I'm gonna go ahead and use just a touch of watercolors on the bird, even though I'm using just basic white cardstock. Let's see how this works. Okay, so I'm going to start with that Pale Papaya again. Cleaning my brush. And if you are more of an artist than I am, you can spend much more time getting in some detailed painting with these birds. But I just really like to get it done quickly. And like I said, I think watercolors are very forgiving. So if you are like me and not much of a painter or an artist, then you don't have to worry about getting it wrong. It'll still look nice. There we go. Then I think I'm gonna grab the garden green. Now I'm gonna grab the cinnamon cider. And I'm gonna get over here on this really light part. Go ahead and add just a touch of water. And I'm gonna put just a little bit of cinnamon cider around the bird's feet. Just so it's looking like it's standing on the ground and not in the air. My paintbrush is clean. It doesn't take very long for this watercolor to dry. So I think I'm going to go ahead and add my glue and finish this card. Okay, do you see this stuff all over my desk? I'm just wondering, does everybody's desk look like that whenever you finish making a card, or is it just me? I was creating earlier today, and I was doing one after the other, and I just ended up with piles of stuff. I finally had to stop and clean up my desk because things were sliding off. It was a disaster, really. Okay, so I like this before it goes in the card, but then once you put it in the card and it's got that pretty blushing bride color all around it, I just think it's gorgeous. Just sweet. Very sweet. And then again, here's the front. And these opal rounds. So pretty. So I know that we're in the middle of Christmas prep right now. We're only less than 2 weeks away from Christmas, but I thought it would be nice to, I've made so many Christmas cards lately, so I thought it would be fun to switch things up and make something a little different and pull in some spring fun, some spring colors, and just grab a card to say hello to someone. Or let me show you the thank you card I made with the same set earlier. So I just stamped thank you. I used a different piece of DSP here. I'll switch the camera around again. There we go. I used a different piece of the same designer series paper. It's just a different sheet of it. So the background is a little different. And I wish, in hindsight, since I had done the purple flowers, I wish I had done a purple card that's Highland Heather on those flowers. I think it would have been really pretty, but I didn't think about it, so I might have to make it again and change that up. So there's the two. So easy, so quick, and so fun. I hope that you enjoyed this one, and I hope that you can join me on my Facebook page this Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Time. I have no idea what we're going to be doing or talking about, but it'll be Stampin' Up for sure. And hopefully it'll be something fun. So y'all have a great day, a great week. Happy stamping.